Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about what's going on with the local teams. The New Orleans Pelicans 2-0 as this show takes live tonight. Getting ready to take on the Portland Trailblazers at the Smoothie King Center, 8 o'clock tip-off tonight. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the draft. We'll talk about the Saints. We got a great guest for you. Mike Detillier joins us on the program, college football, pro football analyst extraordinaire, and I got my copy. I got my copy for sure. And again, it is the Bible of a draft. If you love the draft, you'll love to get this book. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much for being
it, buddy.
with us. How many years now, Mike?
Do I have to say?
Come on, Mike.
33.
And I tell you what, I can remember. I don't know if I got it the first couple years, but after that, I had a run of year after year after year, and I had a stack of those things in my little football room. Before Katrina washed it away. Oh. And I literally, I used to go back and like look at the thumbnails that you had on all the players. And look, more than, you were spot on. And,
Thank you.
And this one is just as good as what we've seen in the past. Mike, as always, man, thanks for being with us. Folks that want to find you, how can they find you on the airwaves? How can they find you on social media?
SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, and Twitter at Mike Detillier, Facebook Mike Detillier. So it's easy to find me today, Eric. Yep. I do a few shows.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while.
A little bit, every once in a while.
It's double-digit time for me.
It is. And I do appreciate it.
I do 10, 12, 13, and a couple of TV shows and that sort of thing. So, it's not my first clam bake.
No, it's
not.
not.
As I told Billy Rickman this morning.
It's not, that's for sure. Let's start off with something we do maybe a little different, because again, it is the biggest story in the city right now, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, 8 o'clock tonight, Smoothie King Center against the Blazers. They're winners of 7 straight, 5 to the end of the regular season, 2 in the playoffs, and they've been playing some great basketball right now. When you look at the defensive effort they've been giving, shutting down Lillard and McCollum, the other part of this is the ball movement, the ability to be able to have Anthony Davis play above the rim, what Rajon Rondo's been able to do. Drew Holiday has had an incredible year here in New Orleans. Finally, the NBA taking notice of not just what he's doing on the defensive end, but Holiday has been able to get his shot anytime he wants on the offensive end. And of course, you look at Mirotic and you wonder yourself, where would this team be without Mirotic at this point? His ability to shoot the ball, I mean, reminds me of back in the day when we were watching Aaron James from the parking lot. I mean, that's the depth he's getting on those three-point shots. Your thoughts on the Pelicans?
They have won the front court, and this Portland team is built around those two guys. You know, they built around CJ, they built around Lillard, and that's how they win. The Pelicans have stole their lane.
Yes.
They playing in their lane of traffic today. And what Rondo and what Drew have done has been phenomenal. Not only on the offensive side, but how well they played defensively. And you can see their shot misadjustment for both those guys, both those shooters. And when you look at the early playoff games, you win three-point percentage, you win the game. And the Pelicans have played in that lane of traffic and not let Portland dictate the pace. They've controlled it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing for most people who have watched the NBA and thought, this series might go to 6 and Portland would win it. That's not correct, because they thought Portland would control the pace. Hasn't been that way. And the outside shooting, man, Drew, he was red hot. He's talking about 33 points, 9 assists in the last game. And that opens so much things up for Mirotic to take that outside shot, for Davis to get the inside play. Sometimes teams are just happy to get into the playoffs. And I think the Pels in the past, hey, we happy to be here. You know what? That attitude this year is, and we're not happy to be here. We want to win it. We're just not happy playing. We want to win the series and move on with it. And I think it's more of a mentality you get as a team. Now, you couldn't have told that back in February or January. And when you lost the big guy, then you say, man, without Cousins, what's going to happen to this team? And yet they've figured it out, and you've seen the step up in play with Drew, going out and acquire Mirotic in that manner, and you brought him in. It's all been a win. And Davis has played big.
Yes.
Every once in a while, I hear somebody, it's time to criticize Anthony Davis because he didn't play well. Okay, well, let me follow you on an off day at your job. Okay, it's going to happen that he might not play real well. But when he's on, he is one of the stars in this league, one of the top couple players in the NBA. But I think the story has been the pace has went the Pelicans' way, and the fact winning the front court battle and taking the 2 stars away from the Trailblazers. I don't think anybody could have predicted that when the series started.
Yeah, and you look again, it's been kind of a team effort defensively with Anthony Davis and Mirotic coming out and, again, attacking that pick and roll. Obviously, Rondo and Drew Holiday have done a great job on one-on-one with the 2 guards, C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. And they have not, again, they've allowed the bench of the Portland Trailblazers, which have, I got to be honest with you, played much better than I thought they could play. And almost by necessity because of what's going on.
But their frontline players have not.
Right.
The Trailblazers' frontline players have not played well. And again, when you get into the playoffs, star players got to play big.
Always.
And that has not happened in Portland. I think the biggest, I guess, accolade you could give the Pelicans was at the end of Game 2. When the Portland fans booed their own team at the end of that game. It was like, man, this is what we've come to see. You're supposed to have swept those guys. And yet, you 0-2 back, and it's going to be difficult because that's in your mind. I think the tough game is tonight.
Yes. Because
of the fact you got home field advantage, so to speak. Everybody's expecting you to play well. You played 2 really good games on the road. Tonight is the jump the broom night. If you're going to do it, you know what? Take them out tonight. 3-0 lead, you ain't coming back. This team is not coming. Almost like you've stole their heart.
Right.
If you can get a 3-0 lead on Portland.
It's interesting that you mentioned what's happening in Portland because, again, that fan base, a rabid fan base, that probably equals Saints fans, how they feel about the New Orleans Saints and the rabid fan base we have here. And that place has been quiet. They turned on him,
and they dead quiet. Eric, that's the surprise part.
Yeah, me too.
Because of the fact they are loud. They have almost like they're on top of the court in Portland. And you hear that noise. You hear that sort of traffic around you. And you had a bad couple of moments toward the end of Game 1. I thought that was a defining moment. You say even if you go to 5 games to win it, the defining moment would be the end of Game 1 when you could have folded and yet you hit shot after shot after shot when Portland got within a hair of coming back on you. I think you look back at game one and say that was the thing that got us over the hump.
And Rajon Rondo's been incredible. I mean, everybody talks about playoff Rondo. Rondo has really kind of taken over this team on the floor, coach on the floor. Gentry has given him a lot more leeway on the floor as well to make calls. He's actually calling out the the offensive sets that the Portland Trailblazers are in as they go into them in the same language that the Pelicans use. And so again, whatever set the Pelicans use in that particular Portland set is being used, he's calling that out. I mean, it's been miraculous in terms of once Boogie Cousins goes down, the offense flowing through Boogie Cousins, and the transformation we've seen with this team. You mentioned the pace, you mentioned the ball movement. A lot of that has to do with Rajon Rondo.
But it's also to the tandem because you're not sure how well all that would have worked without Drew. You know, and they have
best year as a pro,
and they have connected the dots. You know, they linked it the chain, and this has given them the chance here because again. If you look at the first round of the playoffs, those teams shooting threes that have won in that category, they've won the game. And so to say that you've dominated in that category against Portland with those two sharpshooters, that's a great attribute to both guys. But what has really surprised me is how well they played defensively against those two guys that can, when they get hot, they can drill you. With the deep pass. So again, it's shocking to a certain extent just how much they've dominated from a front court standpoint against a team built. That's their bread and butter.
Yes.
They've got to be able to hit those shots. Just haven't done it.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, Drew Holiday, those that watch this show, those that listen to my radio show, know I was not happy about the original contract that he received. Didn't think he was worth it. He has earned every single nickel of it. You want to talk about a
you
guy
happy
elevated?
now?
Oh yeah,
but you know, but at that time, you were in the majority. A lot of people felt that way.
Well, he was often injured. And again, he
never took some time off.
Right.
Also to the distractions, and sometimes I think it's the hardest thing, Eric. Put yourself in his position with his wife and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's hard for us just from an athletic standpoint, and you don't factor in the personal side of it. And what he's done the last month and a half has just been phenomenal. He's almost poked his chest out defensively, but how well he shot from the outside has been a huge part of this basketball.
And I've never seen him as emotional as I've seen him in this series. Again,
talking trash to Portland fans, you know. And so, but when you win, you can get away with that.
Yes.
You know, that works out great. But I think tonight is a very, very difficult game because of the fact now it's expected you're going to win, and you've got the advantage here. And listen, I worked with a guy for years, and he always used to say, Mike, never bet against a desperate team.
Yeah.
Is there a more desperate team right now than what Portland is?
No, there isn't.
They are really, really desperate.
Well, that's why you know they're going to throw everything.
Tonight.
You know, I mean, this is their Waterloo.
Right.
Okay, I mean, this is it tonight.
One way or another.
Right, and we'll see what happens. Again, if the Pelicans can continue to play like they're playing, play the good defense, let the home crowd energize them. They talked about that all year long, how, again, when they get a big crowd in the Smoothie King Center, it's almost like a college atmosphere. We're expecting that. Again, games 3 and 4 now sold out. New Orleans has discovered the Pelicans, and let's hope that they deliver.
It's funny how when you win, this town becomes a basketball city.
But Mike, we go back to the days of the Jazz and the Buccaneers.
Exactly the same way.
When they won, everybody was out there. Now, they're different with Maravich here. People wanted to see Maravich.
Because he was the attraction.
Right, but when you're winning, this town becomes a basketball town.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And literally, you could say that about LSU and Tulane basketball too.
I agree. I mean, look at the heyday with Dale Brown. He was bringing teams in here. They were in the dome with big crowds. Obviously, you look around.
And when Ned Fowler had his run at Tulane, the exact same thing.
And you could say the same thing with Tim Floyd, out at UNO.
Right.
No doubt. Let's shift gears to the NFL draft. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, we're talking Pelicans, we love them, but Mike said we want to talk some draft. When at the Senior Bowl, at the owners' meeting, one of the things that Sean Payton talked about was pass rusher, tight end, wide receiver. How have they done thus far?
Well, they haven't got the pass rusher. You know, that's obvious that sticks out there.
Yeah.
And Eric, I don't know if that pass rush defensive end outside linebacker has become extinct, but it's on the endangered species list. You don't find them. I mean, you know, that's why Bradley Chubb, everybody's got that, oh man, I'd like to get him. But that's just one. You're taking chances on the other guys. A lot of them are hybrid. Somebody like a Harold Landry or an Arden Key, hybrid players. Marcus Davenport is a developmental player. He'll go in round 1, but you're not expecting that he's going to hit double-digit sacks year 1 in the NFL. It's going to take him a little while to do that. And so that's the big area defensively that you would like to fill via the draft. The big thing at 27 is how many guys are going to be there at that point in time that could really help you out as a pass rusher. Because those guys normally come off the board real quickly. Tight end, with the acquisition of Ben Watson, it's still a need area.
I would agree.
But you don't have to force a pick there. And I've got 4 tight ends, actually 5, going from second round into the early third, but I don't have any of them going in round 1. So my deal is...
So why reach?
Why reach for that? The wide receiver position, I think, is still an area they can address via the draft. And I think it's got some depth in this draft class to get one. Don't be surprised, and I came this close to having the Saints pick a cornerback in round 1, only because of the fact value. I thought there's a couple guys there, Jaire Alexander from Louisville, Mike Hughes, and he was the guy I almost pegged in. Mike was a guy that started at North Carolina, got into a little fraternity mishap, so to speak, left, went to Garden City Community College, ends up at Central Florida. Last year was tremendous for UCF. Mirror ball guy. I mean, great ball skills, plays the ball like a receiver. Other element he brings to the table. He's a punt kick return guy. Averaged over 30 yards a kickoff, over 15 yards a punt return. Now you might say, we got Alvin doing that. Well, Alvin, there may be a situation where you might not want him all the time returning kickoffs.
Yes.
But what about the punt return? That's been an area that's been a void for this football team. You never have enough good cover men. Never have enough. When you see 3, 4 wide receivers and all the tight ends today look like king-size receivers, you got to match up. So I think early on, for me, it always came down to an edge pass rusher or another cover guy at cornerback. They filled some of the needs. I don't know about going after a veteran that's at the end of his career or could suck all the air out of the room, like a guy like Dez Bryant. He's getting no separation as a receiver anymore. And we've played this before. Okay, you brought in Champ Bailey at the end of his career, and Champ didn't have anything left. He's an NFL Hall of Fame cornerback, but he didn't have anything left. You brought in Adrian Peterson last year. He had never been a backup in his life. How do you think Dez Bryant's going to be if you tell him you're not a starter, you're a backup?
Right.
How is he going to take that? The same way Adrian Peterson took it, not real well. You leave that go. Do
you think there's a possibility there?
I think it's a possibility, but in my opinion, I wouldn't go that route.
I would not.
Same thing with Brandon Marshall. I wouldn't go that route. I just feel as though let somebody else, lay their hands on him and bring him to Lords of the NFL.
Yes.
And do that sort of thing. You have done well with the receiving core, bringing in people. You got a draft. You can help yourself out. My thing about it is, don't bring a distraction into your life. You don't need that at this stage.
I agree. And I think that they've looked at that really all season long when you look at the possibility of bringing in a Sue. That didn't happen. I think they were worried a little bit about their locker room. When you look at the situation with Dez Bryant, I talked about it on the radio show. He's a diva. And right now, you don't need that type of distraction in this locker room. You got a lot of young players that are still learning how to be NFL players. You want good role models for them. And if you look at the guys they brought in the offseason, character guys as well. When you start talking about Coleman and Watson and some of the other players that they brought into this team.
My thing about it, I'm willing to put up with a diva if he can play. You know what? I'm willing to put up with it. Here's what I don't want to put up with. A guy that walks in the building every day, I don't know how he's going to be. He's riding the wave high or he's low on the ground. His emotional pitch. And what have we seen with Dez when he don't get the football?
Right.
We've seen that emotion get away with it.
On the sideline.
My thing about Ndamukong Suh, people say, I wouldn't touch him. No, I would take him in a heartbeat. You know why? He's low slung. He's to himself. Yeah, he's got an inflated opinion of himself, but I don't have to worry about his temperament. Every day, he's coming to work. He's doing his job. Now, Sometimes on the field, he lets his emotions get the best of him. But my thing is, what I can't put up with is the diva that can't play, and then I got to worry about which one walks. Is he Sybil? And I see his 50 personalities, in a 25-day period. I can't deal with that as a coach. I can deal with the diva if I know how to handle his personality. I can't deal with him if I don't know how he's going to be when he walks in that locker room every day.
Who is Cam Meredith, for those that have never seen him play?
Big, tall receiver, former quarterback, high school, got recruited to college as a quarterback, switched over to the wide receiver position, was an undrafted free agent, hometown guy, goes to Chicago, signs on with the Bears. Didn't do much as a rookie. And his sophomore year, so to speak, he stepped up the pace. And listen, he ain't having Joe Montana throw him in football in Chicago.
Right.
And he caught 68 passes there. And he had really turned into a big possession type receiver. Played 50% of the time in the slot, 50% outside. Was coached by Curtis Johnson, who knows how to kind of get the best out of a wide out. He wasn't the fastest guy, but what he shows is a lot of quickness off the line of scrimmage. And I know this because in doing some work with the Titans post game, he got hurt game 3 against the Titans. And you knew it was a serious injury. So that type of knee injury is a year. Again, he had the surgery late in August. You hope by September he's ready to go. It's obvious that the Bears, $1 million in the NFL is like $100 to you and I.
Yeah.
And my thing about it is, if you thought he could play, why wouldn't you have had the umbrella under him? That tells me I think their medical staff felt as though this injury, he might not be back for September. But the fact of the matter is, he went to Baltimore. They were ready to make an offer. The Saints made the offer. So there's differing medical opinions here on Meredith at that stage. But he's a big possession receiver, catches the ball well. It'll be 18 months from the injury until he's fully ready. But the Saints made this choice, I think, when they gave him that type money, that he's better at 80-85% than what Willie Snead and Coleman is as 100.
$9.6 million over 2 years, $5.4 million guaranteed for Cam Meredith.
That's a lot of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
So again, you got to have your doctors give you the 2 thumbs up and say, hey, listen, I think he'll be ready for the start of the season. And you take it easy with him. Come on, preseason. Come on, preseason is for the unskilled.
Sure.
Let the young other guys play, and you get yourself in shape and ready to go for September. And with that schedule you're going to start the season with, you're going to have some free run early.
Yeah.
So, again, with Cam, I think he's a really good pickup, and he's a big receiver and a big slot receiver. And what last year the Saints struggled in? Third down conversions. It was struggled with that. And they had been so good at that for so many years with Sean and Drew. And yet last year, tight end, slot receiver, couldn't get open.
Willie Snead tendered $1.9 million, no compensation. Friday, that's tomorrow, is the last day to sign that tender. He is at the offseason workouts. They re-signed Brandon Coleman. Your thoughts?
Not a lot of suitors, right?
Well, neither.
For neither one.
Right, neither.
And so, but it goes to show you, especially with Willie, how far it's fallen with him. No offer, no nothing, and comes back on the Saints' price.
Yeah,
so to speak.
Right.
At their price.
And they probably could have got him for a little bit lower price, honestly.
Yeah. So at this point, you're bringing in guys that, you fighting for a job. And I see, because they signed Brandon and they may sign Willie, they won't pick a receiver. What? You kidding me? Come on. In this draft class, they're going to pick a wide receiver. It's got some depth to it in the middle and later rounds of the draft.
Who do you like early in terms of receivers? Who do you like as you get into those middle rounds that fit what the Saints like?
Oh, man, early on, I think Calvin Ridley is the best receiver in this draft class. Just super slick.
Do you think he falls to 27?
No. I think he's a teens pick, maybe early 20s. And I love DJ Moore. A lot of people
Maryland?
From Maryland. Look who was throwing him the football. If you thought DJ Chalk had it bad at LSU, Danny Atlin was big time compared to what DJ Moore had thrown him the football at Maryland. I think those two guys go in round 1. And then I think it comes into a 3-section right after that. With Cortland Sutton from SMU as a possible late first, early second. Also to Christian Kirk from Texas A&M, slot receiver, also can return punts and kicks.
Good
and
speed
then,
too, huh?
What's that now?
Good speed.
Great speed. And then DJ Chalk from LSU. I think there's one LSU player I've talked to more scouts about is DJ. And you know, he's a 6'3" receiver, 4.4 speed in the 40, great leaping skills. The one thing that I questioned was how well he could catch the ball cleanly. You saw at LSU, a lot of it was a double clutch type of catch. You catch it and then catch it again. Or you let the ball come right up against the body. In the NFL, you do that. They'll pop you. The ball comes out. Either it's incomplete or intercepted. But you watched him at the combine, pow, with his hands. He had been working at it. And it's memory skill. You got to work at that.
Right. Jerry Sullivan?
And Jerry Sullivan had a lot to do with it. But you know what? You can see DJ's put a lot of work into this. And like Odell and like Jarvis, you know, you're going to say, man, this guy, when his second year in the NFL, I think he ends up being a really good starting receiver in the NFL.
What about former Tiger Trey Quinn, who's supposed to be a middle-round pick? What do you think about him?
I'm a big fan of Trey. And listen, he'll always carry that moniker about dropping those passes against Alabama, and that led to him leaving.
Yes.
Because once he dropped them, then Les unplugged him after that. Watched him at SMU last year. I mean, he was just superb catching the football. Yes. He's sure-handed, got great eye-hand coordination. I think he's best in the slot, though he could play out wide if you needed to. Also can return punts. He's a much better athlete than people give him credit for. And he was a tremendous baseball player. And Eric, growing up, the one thing about playing baseball, you have eye-hand coordination.
There's no doubt about that.
If you played baseball at the level that he did, he's got it. And I think he becomes a steal for a team in the middle rounds.
Yeah. And it kind of fits what the Saints do as well, and as a slot receiver.
Absolutely. I think, when I watched him, and I've told some people close to him, watch him play. Looks like he's almost got a Patriots stamp on his helmet.
Yes.
Like what I saw Julian Edelman have.
Great
I mean,
point.
he's a very, very similar type athlete.
Yeah, no doubt. Talk about the tight end position. You say you don't have any going in round one, but your top tight ends and where you think they may go.
I've got 4 going in the second round, a potential 5th. I think that's when the run starts. My top tight end, Dallas Goedert from South Dakota State. King size receiver playing tight end. He's a solid blocker. He knows what to do. Gets open. Big target guy. Catches the ball well. Sort of uses his body like a basketball forward going up for a rebound. He's very good at that. You've got Mark Andrews from Oklahoma. He was Baker Mayfield's guy, 3rd and 4 or 5. Baker would give him the football, he'd get open. He's maybe not the greatest athlete in the world, but he knows how to get open. He's got a little medical issue, which he's dealt with with very well. So he's also another guy that, you look at that stage. Hayden Hurst, baseball player. Started out, he could have basically picked his college, decided to sign with the Pittsburgh Pirates, played 3 years there, then walks on at South Carolina. He became a big target guy. Bentley knew where to throw him the football last year. And again, another big target receiver. Runs pretty well after the catch, but he knows how to find that sweet spot downfield. And then Gesicki from Penn State. He's a receiver playing tight end. They didn't ask him to do no blocking. He got in the way, but he wasn't no blocker. And his first block, good one in the NFL, will be his first good block. I mean, that's not what he does best. He's a very athletic tight end, and he wowed them at the combine with everything he did. A big target guy who can run, great speed, put up nice numbers at Penn State for a team not known for really throwing the football. So you've got all those guys all sort of jammed together with me on where they're going to get picked. And then Ian Thomas from Indiana, who I think if he had another year of college football, he'd be a big-time player. So you got 5 guys there that will go pretty quickly. But I think all of them going round 2 are very early in the 3rd round.
Best fit for the Saints?
I would say Goddard because of the fact that he can do a little bit of both. And Hayden Hurst. Because, again, he's a solid inside blocker. Now, we're not talking about no slam-bam interior blocker here. Those, they got one in this draft class. Disley from Washington, he can do that, but he can't run like what these 5 guys can do. So I think Goddard and Hayden Hurst would be the two really good fits.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guest tonight, Mike Detillier. This is his draft report. Again, you can check him out, Saints Report, also MikeDetillier.com, and check him on the airwaves here in the city as well. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll continue the conversation. We'll open the phone lines. About 15 minutes left in the show, so you can ask Mike some questions. Stick around, New Orleans.
Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhardt has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhardt's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhardt's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Before we jump into some more draft talk, I want to let everybody know the NFL schedule is coming out at 7 o'clock tonight, where our friends at Saints Report already got a little bit of inside information. We're going to put that up for you right now. And Mike, I'm not sure if you looked at it.
Owned and operated.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Anything jump out at you as far as that schedule goes?
Early season, do like Secretariat, baby, and jump out when they open up the chutes. But when you look at that early, the start that you could get, because once you get past that at Minnesota, which is in late October, look at how it breaks down. Minnesota, the Rams, Cincinnati, you might say, oh, they're playing on the road. But look who you play the following week, the Eagles. A squeeze game. A squeeze game there. Then you got Atlanta on Thanksgiving night here.
Yes.
Cowboys on the road. Tampa Bay on the road. Carolina on the road. Eric, 3 straight away games after that. And then you finish it out, Pittsburgh, Carolina at home. You don't think the schedule makers are pretty slick?
Yeah.
Carolina, 2 out of the last 3 games. Aren't they telling you?
Yeah.
Without telling you, we think those two teams
right.
will be fighting it out somewhere along the lines with that. But when the look at that schedule, the early season jump you could have is going to be crucial, because you got some really tough games as from that late October all the way through, where, man, you're in a meat grinder.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's get back to the draft, and obviously pass rusher is a need for the Saints. They have met with Arden Key several times. First of all, what are your thoughts about a marriage between Arden Key and the Saints, and then maybe some pass rushers that might be available, not necessarily a defensive end, but maybe a linebacker that can rush the passer, some players that may be in the mix for the Saints as they choose?
Let me answer your linebacker question first. I think in today's world, because you are seeing so much nickel and dime, you're seeing a lot of 2 linebacker play. Mm-hmm. So that linebacker I pick in round 1 or round 2, if I had a second round pick, he better be really good, and he better be able to cover. Eric, that's the thing you don't see anymore. A lot of these guys don't cover well.
Yes.
So you can see they started getting squeezed out a little bit. They're running out of downs, where the safety now is in play for that extra linebacker spot. Yes. And you didn't bring in Demario Davis to watch.
Yes.
He's your starting linebacker, so you're going to move A.J. Klein over to the strong side. So Manti Te'o will play both middle and the strong. And then you have Anzalone and Robertson on the weak side. If my concern would be that Alex has had that history at Florida and now with the Saints of getting hurt.
Right.
So if I'm going to spend an early pick, he better play on the weak side. But again, I would go after a pass rush defensive end. Or if an interior defensive lineman started to tumble.
Yes.
A Taven Bryan, a Daron Payne. One of those guys, if they would tumble that far, I take him. I'll figure out where to play him.
Right.
But value-wise, that might be the spot for it. You're going to see the edge rushers. Chubb's going to be a top 5 or 6 pick. Davenport's going to be in the teens. Harold Landry is the wild card in this, where I've had teams tell me we think he could go into the teens. I've had other people tell me, I think he might be there for the Saints at 27.
Do you like him?
I like him. You know who he reminds me a lot of in watching him play? Pat Swilling. His ability to get off the snap and his hand usage, very similar to Pat. That's what Pat did so well. As a junior, he was unreal at Boston College. Then he has the ankle injury, wasn't quite the same player last year for BC. But, man, if you could do what Pat Swilling can do, and he becomes the queen piece in football chess. I can put him with his hand in the dirt. Also, I can move him around. I can swing him left, right, have him coming up the middle. I can do a lot of different things with Harold Landry. And I think Dennis Allen would want that type football player if he could get his hands on him. Eric, I've said this before, and I just finished doing a show before I came on here. I've done shows from Maine to California, Minnesota to Louisiana, everything in between. Ain't been one show I've done that somebody hasn't asked me about Arden Key.
Right.
He is the most intriguing defensive player in this draft class. This was a guy last year. If they had that draft board up, everybody's got him in the top 3 or 4. And I thought he might become the highest drafted LSU defensive player ever.
Wow.
Because of that position is becoming so hard to find. Now he's in free fall. The Saints have brought him in 4 times. Wow. He told me
that's strong.
4 times. So that tells me a couple things. One, the Saints have interest. And secondly, there's division in the building about how are we going to address the Arden Key situation and where would we go, so to speak, to pick him up. You're not picking him up in round 1. Where's the free fall going to end for Arden? And I told him this. For every pick, once you get into round 2, and it becomes 35 and 40 and 50, every team saying, man, look who passed on him. Look who passed on him. They need a pass rush. And it starts to build, almost like a little snowball. Who stops it and says, enough's enough. I'm going to take my shot at him. If the Saints don't have intel on Arden Key, they'll never get it on one player.
You're right, huh? Because of Ogeron's...
Because Ogeron was on this staff in 08 with Sean Payton.
Right. Had
a great relationship. A lot of people say, what was the relationship between him and Les Miles? I can't tell you. They knew one another, and they were cordial, but I don't know the relationship between the two. I know how he is because Coach O was on that staff, and they were close. Ogeron was on that staff in 08, and if you remember, in 07, who was the assistant defensive line coach? Dennis Allen. And he got swung to be the secondary coach in 08.
That's right.
When Bebe got the job as defensive line coach. So he's worked with the head coach. He's worked with the defensive coordinator. Saints defensive line coach is Ryan Nielsen. Who coached him in college at USC? Ed Ogeron. Who gave him his first job as a college coach? Ed Ogeron at Ole Miss. He considers himself to be an Ed Ogeron protege.
Right.
But he'll also tell you, the only other guy that really, really helped my development, other than Coach O at the highest level, Pete Jenkins. Guess where Pete's been the last year and a half?
Right.
At LSU. If you don't have intel on Arden Key by now, you never get it. But here's my thing is, it took you 4 times to bring him in? That's a lot, Eric. That's a lot of times when you bringing in that guy that many times. So that tells me 2 things. There is interest on one end, and there's some debate on the other about, hey, should we pick him or should we not because of the off-the-field issues.
Yes. Mike, you mentioned interior defensive linemen. The Saints have had problems stopping the runs. One of the reasons why they went out and got Demario Davis. I think that is an option for them going
That's
forward.
a big option. Big option. Why did you go after Ndamukong Suh?
Right.
You know,
well, you want to free up Sheldon Rankins, but you still need to stop that run.
Exactly. You need a guy that can do that, and that's why I'm just telling you, if it would happen, and I don't know how it's going to fall, and no one knows exactly how it's going to tumble, but if a Taven Bryant from Florida, or if a Deron Payne from Alabama, for whatever reason, Jonathan Allen, nobody thought he would fall from where he did to where the Redskins got him. So those sort of situations happen come draft day. You sometimes hit the free fall. I didn't even thought Ryan Ramczyk would last to 32.
Right.
And you was able to get him at that point. The draft has a lot of weird twists and turns to it. Nobody knows what the other team is going to do at that point. But I agree with you. I think to have that guy that can stop the run, but also push the inside pocket. Eric, it's more and more, in watching college football and the pros today, the pressure on the quarterbacks is not necessarily coming from the edge.
Right.
It's coming up the middle. Either those defensive tackles or they're sending a safety up the middle on a delayed blitz. What it does, takes away that ability of the quarterback step up in the pocket to make a throw. I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if the right guy fell, they go that route.
Mike, what about the quarterback position? You heard Sean Payton, whether it was a smokescreen or not, saying earlier this week that, you know, if he was one of the top teams that were picking, he would have a tough time outside of Sam Darnold in terms of picking a quarterback. He's maybe not sold on it. When he comes out and make those statements, the first thing I think is smokescreen. How realistic is it for this team to maybe trade up and get a quarterback this year, in your opinion?
You better trade up high.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, those guys are coming off quick. You can see whatever the Browns do, and I think, again, you got to go Sam Darnold there, but who knows with the Browns. I think it would be a big mistake with Josh Allen, though I do think he's the top 5 or 6 pick in this draft class because of the need.
Yes.
I think Baker Mayfield, now, it looks as though he's headed to New York at that point. So who's in free fall? Josh Rosen. He's the one taking a little bit of a tumble now. And question marks about his durability, which is legit. You see him, the way he's built, last 2 years he's had some injuries. Also to his personality and how he handles things. He's not the most loved teammate out there.
Right.
And I think at that position, you better have a guy that you're going to fight for. I'm not real sure that situation with Josh. And then certainly Lamar Jackson. I think of all the guys, and I still got a feeling Lamar's going to end up being a top 20 pick. Because, again, if those guys go in the top 10, you know, what are the Cardinals are going to do? What are the Bills are going to do? I mean, what is Miami? Are you sold on Ryan Tannehill?
Right.
So there's a lot of spots there that Lamar could go. But if he's at 27, I wouldn't think a second about picking him.
Now, that was going to be my next question. The biggest knock on him has been his accuracy. Is it his mechanics? Is that something that can be fixed? Because as an athlete, as a player that dominated college football, come on. The guy was a Heisman Trophy winner. You know what he can do on the field. Break him down as a quarterback.
Take him off that Louisville team. How many wins they going to get?
Not many.
He carried that team on his back. You know, that offensive line's not the greatest to protect him. You know, when I watched him, a lot of times his bad throws was when he was not set well, not off the edge, but in the pocket. Almost flat, the ball came out and sort of sailed on him. So the receivers tipped it, boop, interception or incomplete. I think that's something you can work on as a player. But boy, does he hit you the pressure points because of he can make plays with his feet that no one of the other quarterbacks can do. They can't. It's not even in the same zip code of what Lamar can. I think, I say this every year, there are probably 3 or 4 guys in this draft class that, you know what, no matter where they end up, production's the same. The 99.9% of the rest, it's about fit, it's about coaching, it's about scheme, health. All of that all plays into the factor of success or not in the NFL. And Lamar fits into that 99.9% of people. And there's no quarterback in this draft class you can say, for sure, no matter where he ends up. And if Sam Darnold gets picked by the Browns, what kind of shape is he going to be in 2 years?
Yeah.
He's going to be pounced around pretty good. Now, I know they have Tyrod Taylor there, but still, when's the pressure going to be on the coach, on Hugh, to say, you know what, I got enough of Tyrod Taylor. We spent the first overall pick in the draft. You're going to play Sam Darnold.
Yes.
And how much the owner, Jimmy Haslam, is going to play in this decision. You know, because I think he's played a major part in a lot of decisions that have went wrong in Cleveland.
Mike, what about Louisiana kids? Maybe a thumbnail on some Louisiana kids that are going to get drafted. I'd like to start with Tulane and some of the players you think that may get drafted there, and then we'll move on.
And Perry Nickerson is one heck of a football
I really
player.
like him, man.
I think he is one of the top slot cover corners in this draft class. Maybe a little question mark with the knee, but he's played, and he's been out on an island. You know, you left him one-on-one, and his ball skills, his speed, his recovery ability is just so good. Now, he's awfully thin, very similar to Dante Jackson at LSU. But man, I'm a big fan of Perry Nickerson.
As am I.
I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's a heck of a player. But I will say this. I don't think he's the first Tulane player picked. I think Uday Arunu is.
Right, because of pass rusher?
Pass rusher. Now, he hasn't put up great numbers at Tulane, but watch Uday play. His ability to get off the edge, athletically, he's off the charts. Now, he's going to need the right defensive line coach to mold all that together with him. But boy, he is gifted athletically, really, really strong. And then Dontrell Hilliard, the running back from Tulane. I think he's got a shot as a late-round pick. You look at the guys that have played running back at Tulane and went on and had success in the National Football League. And he can catch the football pretty well coming out the backfield.
Yes.
So Tulane potentially could have 3. When's the last time we've said that?
Yeah. No, and look, let me tell you something. I want everybody to remember.
And 2 on defense.
Right. Curtis Johnson is in that draft room with the Saints. And
if
of
he
course,
ain't banging that on that desk for Perry Nickerson, if you don't pick a cornerback early, then, hey.
I'm right with you. Where do you think he goes? What round?
I think,
it's been all over the map with him.
I think potentially he could go very late in round 3, but I think he's a 4th-round pick.
Right. Beautiful. Let's head to the phone lines, and then we'll get back to a little bit more draft talk. Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. Got a question for Mike. Is there a position on the Saints roster right now occupied by a veteran that should be worried about the draft coming up? And I'll listen and hang up.
Thanks.
I think every veteran on every team is worried about the draft.
Amen.
We've done draft shows where, man, they keeping an eye on every selection, so to speak. I think what we've talked about, defensive end, cornerback, defensive tackle, we're talking a lot of defense here, especially early on in the draft. And I think as you get into the middle rounds where you've got some depth, wide receiver, cornerback. Right. And tight end is also a position of, Ben Watson was brought in as the bridge between this year and the next one.
Yeah, and a great locker room guy.
But he's productive. Because here's my thing, Eric, and I hear a lot of people, and I understand where you're going with it, with the locker room thing. But if you can't play anymore,
nobody's listening to you.
Yeah, who are you?
Right.
You got to put up something. Look, he was productive last year with Baltimore.
Absolutely he was.
And in this offense, if he's healthy, and that's the thing, is remarkable at his age that, he was able to put up those type.
Especially coming off the injury.
Coming off that Achilles injury that knocked him out early. You don't have a lot of guys walking around in their mid-30s playing tight end in this league.
No, you're right. He's been very, very productive. I think they could squeeze another year out of him. To New Orleans and Cole. Cole, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Cole.
Hey, guys. I just wanted to talk about 2 receivers real quick. I'm actually a little nervous about the Cameron Meredith deal. On paper, it could be awesome. It could turn out to be a stud. But, man, the fact that he's missing training camp, I feel like the receivers being at training camp is like the most important position to attend training camp so Drew and the receivers can get a flow together. I feel like that's like, one of Drew's staples when preparing receivers. So I'm a little concerned about that. And also, why on earth are we treating Willie Snead so terribly? I do not understand. This dude has been a stud for us besides last year, which was obviously like a weird year. And it happened to be around the same time we had problems on third downs And yet now we're just like, letting anybody take him for dirt. Like, I don't understand this at all, what we're doing with our receivers. So, anyways, I just want your thoughts on it.
Thank you, Cole. It's what have you done for me lately with Willie Snead, right?
Well, my thing about it, and I understand where Cole is going, and he was a very productive receiver in 2016. But what happened last year? And my thing is...
In a contract year.
In a contract year, and where are the other teams lined up? None. I think he took one visit. To Baltimore, I think was the visit.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So, it's not, you can't say the Saints are dissing him. They're the only team that offered him something at this stage. With Meredith, you can go to the bank on this. With him and Drew Brees, they're going to work together.
Well, he's already said he's going to San Diego.
San Diego, he'll work with him. And even though you're coming off the injury and you're careful with him, that doesn't mean you can't do certain things to build that rapport up with a wideout. Here's my thing. I would be very cautious with him from a playing time standpoint in preseason. And, what they do, Eric, I mean, come on. It's pajamas and slippers in practice most of the time. They're out there in shells, and and sometimes it's live hit, but you can get your rapport down with a quarterback, especially a guy like Drew. He knows what you do well and what you don't do well. And I think that's going to come together very quickly with him, Cam. What I can't tell you is he going to be 75%, 85%, once the season starts? I can't tell you, neither can him at this stage.
What about LSU players that are going to get drafted?
And Darius Geis, man, just one heck of a running back. I think he goes late in round one. He's really a power runner. He's got that little gig he can get off to the side. He catches the ball a lot better than people think. He can catch the football coming out the backfield. Dante, again, like Perry, very thinly built, slot cornerback, fits in well. Athletically, he can just motor downfield. The big thing is how he's going to match up against a big receiver in the slot. That, to me, is a big question mark because he had trouble a few times at LSU. We remember the Florida game. Just pushed a guy out of bounds. He tries to make the tackle. The guy just nudges him out. The Notre Dame game, he just kind of throws him off and takes off downfield. But I think he ends up going in round two. His athleticism is going to be there. I wish he'd catch the ball a little bit better, more than anything. And then Will Clapp. Big Will Clapp fan. I think that the ability to play center and guard, and that's an alpha dog type of position. I'm in charge. I'm taking over because I got to get the other guys in line. And with all that pressure coming up the middle, I got to have my head on the swivel. I think he ends up going in round three.
Well, Saints have a need there for sure. Center guard.
And here's my thing. I'd rather have a guy in waiting, knowing that I've only got one guy with age.
Yes.
As up front as a starter with Max Unger.
Right.
And, I could play him at guard, play him at center, and then eventually
let him move in.
Move him inside to center.
Back to the phone lines we go. Toby is in Gretna. Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Toby.
What round would you take a chance on Callaway from Florida? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Well, he's been a magnet for trouble. He's a late round pick for me. It's constant. One thing after another. Didn't play last year at all. And then he had gotten into trouble before. He's a great athlete. And listen, on paper and athletically, he's a first-round pick talent. But, man, he's just been a magnet for it constantly. And my thing about it is, can he get away from that? And we've seen so many guys, you're going to be guilt by association. I hate to say it. I told this to Key, and I would tell this to Callaway. You're guilt by association today. With Aldon Smith, Reuben Foster.
Yes.
Those guys, because of what's happened, is also going to negatively affect you. No owner wants to deal with that. No GM wants to deal with it. A coach will take him.
Right.
Because you know what? He can play.
Sure.
He can flat out play.
Herm is in New Orleans. Herm, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Herm. Herm, you with us? All right, let's move on to Hal in West Wego. Hal, how you doing? Hal in West Wego, going once, going twice.
It's sold to Hal in West Wego.
He's gone? All right. Go ahead. You're on the air.
think he's this.
I think he's gone.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the running back position, because Mark Ingram is in the last year of his deal. Is that a player that they're going to extend and give big money, or is that something they maybe look at in the draft?
I don't know what he's asking for financially. He's not a young running back anymore. But I think running backs today can play longer than they've ever been because of the fact is the rotation.
They're being platooned.
Yeah,
right.
you don't have a lot of mileage on the speedometer like you see some of these backs have.
But he's a physical back.
Very physical running back. But man, it was the Batman and Robin team with him and Alvin.
Right.
I mean, they fit so well. And almost like a married couple to a certain extent. And I hate to put it that way, but they would almost like finish each other's sentences when they were interviewed. Yeah. They're a great tandem together. I don't know what he's asking for. But, I think the one area you can find in a draft is a running back. That's a spot where you got some major depth, no matter what. And I think like 7-on-7 has expanded everything for the receivers, it's also made the running back position a spot where you got to learn how to catch the ball. That wasn't always the case.
Yes.
You weren't exactly a great receiver. But now these backs coming out today, they know how to catch the ball well, so they fit into the NFL so quickly.
Mike, any other Louisiana players maybe from some other universities that may get drafted?
I think that, it's an unusual year because last year, I want to say it was in the 60s, the amount of players either from the state or a state school that signed either a contract or were drafted. That's not this type of year. You're not seeing that sort of thing. I'll give you one guy, he's a Mississippi guy, but keep in mind, and his name is Travarius Ward from Middle Tennessee, from Macomb, Mississippi. Junior college kid, went to Middle Tennessee. His coach, Coach Ellis, who had coached at Nichols, coached Ladarius Webb. Right. Also coached Kevin Byard. Right.
Position?
Cornerback.
Okay.
He's a 6-foot-tall guy with a 78-inch wingspan. Straight A student. He's a guy that's a sleeper, and I'm just telling you, he is a really good football player. And for Coach Ellis to tell me he's a better player coming out than Webb and Byard were,
that's strong.
That's really strong. You don't hear a lot about him. You will come drafting.
Right. Mike, Saints got a lot of picks toward the end of the draft. Do you think they're going to be aggressive, bundling picks and moving up?
It could be. It could be. One guy I should have brought up was Tracy Walker from University of Louisiana, or UL Lafayette, wherever it is today. And he's been such a good football player for them. He's played that strong safety position, which means he's also been hybrid. He's almost up on the line of scrimmage like a linebacker. And you see all these teams doing that in the NFL today. I think he's got a chance to be a 5th, 6th round pick, a really good football player in that spot that he could fit, which you see so much of it today in the NFL.
Beautiful. This is the this year's draft report. Again, Mike Detillier, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate having you on the program. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television, that's 9 p.m. every single Friday night. Check us out there if you're out of the New Orleans viewing area. Also, you catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2. Check us out on the iHeartRadio app. It's a free download for your smartphone or tablet. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. And if you missed any of the previous episodes of this program, Inside New Orleans Sports, you can check those out at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to Mike Detillier. Always a great job. Love having Mike on the show. We'll get him back after the draft to kind of go over what's going on with the Saints and the rest of the NFL and take a look at those Louisiana players and see where they went as well. But want to also thank Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Trey Lopez, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisby's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbysrestaurant.com.